The station called Blearus Point was never quiet, but it was calm in its own strange way. Ships came and went without sound, lights drifted instead of flickered, and dozens of species passed each other every hour without conflict. Humans were still new here. They had arrived only a few years ago, careful and observant, trying not to step on invisible rules they did not yet understand. Evan Cole was one of those humans. He worked as a cultural liaison, which mostly meant listening, smiling, and asking polite questions. He was not important enough to be famous, but important enough to be useful. He spent his days helping different species understand human habits and helping humans avoid small mistakes that could turn into big embarrassments. Evan believed he was ordinary. That belief followed him everywhere. He dressed simply, spoke carefully, and kept his emotions under control. Humans were already known as unpredictable by some alien cultures, so Evan did his best to be steady and neutral. He thought that was the safest way to exist among the stars. That was why her behavior confused him. Her name was Scifi. She was not human. Her species, the Volari, were tall, light-framed, and softly luminous. Their skin shifting color slightly with emotion. They were known for openness and honesty, sometimes to an uncomfortable degree. Scifi spoke to Evan almost every day. At first, he thought it was professional. She worked in interspecies social coordination, which often overlapped with his job. Their first conversations were normal. Shared schedules, translation questions, small observations about station life. Then she started sitting closer. In human terms, she stood too near. Close enough that Evan could notice the gentle warmth her body gave off, like sunlight filtered through glass. He stepped back once, apologizing, but she only tilted her head and stepped closer again, as if distance itself were a problem to be solved. She asked him questions that felt personal, not invasive, but focused. How did humans stay calm when overwhelmed? Why did humans pause before speaking? Did silence feel uncomfortable to him? Evan answered honestly, assuming curiosity. Sometimes she touched his arm lightly when speaking, a brief contact that lingered just long enough to feel intentional. Evan told himself it was cultural. Many species were tactile. It did not mean anything. But then others noticed. Other Volari began greeting him differently, with subtle nods of respect. A few non-Volari colleagues started giving him curious looks, as if he had achieved something quietly impressive. Evan did not understand why. One afternoon, while reviewing a translation report in a shared observation lounge, Scifi joined him without asking. She did not interrupt. She waited until he finished reading before speaking, which surprised him. Volari were known for immediate expression. "You focus very deeply," she said softly. "I try," Evan replied. "It helps avoid mistakes." She watched him for a long moment, her skin glowing faintly in warm tones. "That is admirable." Evan felt awkward. Compliments still made him uncomfortable. "It's just part of the job. For humans, perhaps," she said. "For us, restraint is rare." He smiled politely, not sure how to respond. Over the next weeks, their conversations grew longer. She adjusted her schedule to match his without mentioning it. She remembered small details about him, like how he preferred quiet spaces and disliked crowded transport corridors. Evan noticed, but he did not assume. Humans were careful like that. What he did not know was that among the Volari, consistent attention was not casual. Choosing to return to the same person again and again was a sign of trust. Adjusting one's natural expressiveness to make someone comfortable was a deep sign of affection. Scifi was doing all of that. Evan simply thought she was being kind. One day, during a cultural exchange briefing, a misunderstanding arose between two species with very different emotional expressions. Voices did not rise, but tension filled the room like thick air. The Volari delegate became visibly distressed, colors flashing rapidly across her skin. Evan noticed Scifi stiffen beside him. Before anyone else could react, Evan spoke. He did not rush. He did not raise his voice. He carefully explained both sides, translating not just words, but intentions. He acknowledged feelings without judgment. Slowly, the room relaxed. When the meeting ended, Sayalene looked at him as if she were seeing him for the first time. "You did not dominate the conversation," she said quietly. "You did not retreat either. I just didn't want anyone to feel misunderstood," Evan replied. "That balance," she said, "is difficult." That evening, she walked with him along one of the station's transparent corridors, stars stretching endlessly beyond the glass. She did not speak for a long time, which was unusual for her. "Sayalene?" Evan asked gently. "Is something wrong?" "No," she said. "Something is clear." She stopped walking and faced him. Evan stopped too, uncertain. "In your culture," she asked, "what does it mean to be close to someone?" Evan hesitated. Humans had many answers to that question. "It means trust," he said slowly. "Comfort, respect." Her skin glowed warmly. "Then," she said, "we are already close." If I've misunderstood something, I'm sorry." She tilted her head again, that familiar gesture.
"You misunderstand nothing."
"You simply do not see yourself as others do." She stepped back then, giving him space, as if carefully correcting herself. Evan watched her leave, confused and unsettled, his mind replaying her words again and again. For the first time since arriving among the stars, Evan wondered if being human meant something more than he had believed. And somewhere in the station's quiet systems, records quietly updated. Human emotional restraint, reevaluation recommended. Evan did not sleep well that night. It was not because of noise or light. Lyra's Point was designed for rest, its artificial cycles, gentle and precise. The problem was his thoughts. They moved in slow circles, always returning to the same moment in the corridor. The stars behind the glass, and Sayalene's calm voice saying that he did not see himself as others did. Humans were good at doubt. Evan had always been good at it. The next morning, he told himself to act normal. Whatever Sayalene had meant, it was probably cultural confusion. Alien cultures were complex, layered with meanings humans could easily misread. Assuming anything else would be careless. Still, when he arrived at the station's shared atrium, he noticed her immediately. She was waiting, not pacing, not distracted, just standing near the edge of the space. Her posture relaxed but alert. When she saw him, her skin shifted into a soft, steady glow. Evan felt a strange tightness in his chest, an emotion he pushed aside. "Good morning," she said. "Morning, Evan," replied. "You're early." "So are you." He smiled faintly. "Habit." They walked together toward their assigned work zone. The path curved through a garden corridor filled with floating plant life, carefully balanced in low gravity. Sayalene slowed her steps to match his without comment. Evan noticed again. He always noticed. He just did not know what to do with it. Their conversation stayed light at first. She asked about his rest cycle. He asked about her current projects. But beneath the words, something had changed. The silence between sentences felt heavier, more aware. At one point, Evan stopped near a cluster of luminous leaves. "About yesterday," he began, then hesitated. "If I crossed some kind of boundary." "You did not," she said quickly. Her response was immediate, almost sharp, and then she softened.
"You acted with care. That is never wrong." He nodded, accepting that.
Still, questions remained. Later that day, Evan attended a small briefing with representatives from several species. Humans were observers only, still learning how different cultures resolved emotional disputes. Evan sat quietly, taking notes. Across the room, Sayalene watched him instead of the speakers. When the session ended, one of the delegates, a member of a highly competitive species, approached Evan.
Your presence influences discussion outcomes, the alien said bluntly. You reduce escalation.
Evan blinked.
I don't do anything.
You remain, the alien replied. That is enough. The alien walked away before Evan could respond. Silene approached moments later.
You see?
She said gently.
See what? That others adjust around you?
Evan frowned.
That happens to everyone. No,
she said. It happens around you. The rest of the day unfolded in small moments like that. A pause before someone spoke when Evan was near. A subtle shift in tone. He began to feel like a fixed point in a moving system. Something he had never experienced before. Humans were supposed to adapt, not anchor. In the afternoon, a scheduling error caused confusion in the social coordination sector. A Valari junior coordinator had sent an unfiltered emotional projection to the wrong group, accidentally exposing private feelings to several non-Valari species. The coordinator was overwhelmed, skin flashing erratically, voice unsteady. Silene was called in, but she hesitated before stepping forward. Evan noticed and moved beside her without thinking. He did not speak immediately. He waited until the coordinator's breathing slowed. Then he asked a simple question.
Can you tell me what you were trying to communicate? The coordinator struggled at first, but Evan stayed patient. He did not rush, did not interrupt.
Slowly, the meaning became clear. The error was corrected. Apologies were accepted. The situation dissolved without embarrassment. When it was over, Silene looked at Evan with something close to awe. You step into emotional instability without absorbing it, she said quietly. How? Evan shrugged. Humans learn early that not every feeling needs to be acted on. For us, she said, feelings demand expression. They stood in silence for a moment. Silene, Evan said carefully, can I ask you something personal? She nodded. Why do you spend so much time with me? Her skin shifted, slow and thoughtful.
Because you make space? For what? For thought.
For choice. She met his eyes.
You do not pull me toward you. You allow me to come closer. Evan felt his heart beat faster.
He forced himself to stay calm. I don't want to lead you on, he said honestly. If you expect something I can't give. She raised a hand, not touching him, but close. Expectation without consent is meaningless. That was not a human phrase. It carried weight. Later, Evan sought out a human colleague, Mira, another liaison with more experience. He explained the situation without naming Silene. Mira listened, then laughed softly. Evan, do you know what humans are known for right now? Being cautious. Being emotionally disciplined, she said. A lot of species admire it. Some misunderstand it. Some value it deeply. Evan stared at the floor. So this is normal? It's new, Mira said. And you didn't do anything wrong? That night, Evan walked the long way back to his quarters. The station lights dimmed into artificial dusk. He thought about how often humans assumed they were lacking, slow, unremarkable. Maybe they were simply different. As he reached his door, a message pinged his console. It was from Silene. I hope today was not uncomfortable, the message read. If it was, tell me. I will adjust. Evan typed, erased, typed again. It wasn't uncomfortable, he finally sent. Just unfamiliar. Her reply came quickly.
Unfamiliar does not mean unwelcome. Evan leaned back against the wall, closing his eyes. Somewhere deep within the station's cultural analysis systems, another quiet update occurred.
Human presence, stabilizing influence confirmed. Emotional impact, higher than projected. Evan did not know it yet, but he was no longer just observing interstellar society. He was changing it, simply by being human. It showed in small things first. Conversation stopped when he entered a room, not because he was unwelcome, but because people waited. Not nervously, not formally, just enough to include him. It was as if his presence created a pause where none had existed before. Humans were not used to that. He told himself not to overthink it. Overthinking was another human habit that rarely helped. Still, when Silene walked beside him through the central ring of the station, he felt the difference more strongly than anywhere else. She did not speak right away. She matched his pace, her step smooth and light, her glow soft and steady. "Ah,
You are quieter today," she said at last. "I'm thinking," Evan replied.
about me?" she asked, not teasing, just asking. He hesitated. "About us. Maybe." She accepted that answer without pressing him. That alone unsettled him more than any direct question would have. They reached a quiet observation alcove, one of Evan's favorite places. Stars drifted slowly beyond the curved glass, distant and calm. Saylan stopped there, turning to face him fully. "I have learned something important," she said. Bed's shoulders tensed slightly. "That sounds serious." "It is," she agreed. "For me, and perhaps for you." She took a breath, a visible thing for her species. Light rippling across her skin. Among the Volari, there is a concept we do not translate easily. It describes the moment when one chooses a single presence over many. Evan listened carefully. He had learned that listening mattered more than speaking. "We are social," she continued. "Open. Emotion flows freely among us. But when someone begins to limit that flow, when they quiet themselves for one individual, it means trust has deepened into intention." Evan felt his throat tighten. Intention for what? "For bonding," she said simply. The word hung between them. Evan did not step back. He did not step forward, either. He stayed exactly where he was. "I didn't know," he said quietly. "I know," she replied. "That is why I am telling you now." She lowered her gaze slightly, a Valari sign of respect. "I have been treating you as more than a friend, not to trap you, not to demand, only because it felt right." Evan closed his eyes for a brief moment. His mind raced, but his body stayed still. Humans were good at that.
When you stay calm, Silin said softly, it feels like safety. When you listen without pulling, it feels like choice.
That is rare to us. Evan opened his eyes again.
Silen, I care about you. I do.
But humans don't move the same way. We're slower. We question everything, especially ourselves. "That," she said gently, "is why you are dangerous." He blinked. "Dangerous?" "To assumptions," she clarified. "To chaos. To impulse." She smiled then, a subtle change in her glow. "You do not conquer. You stabilize." Over the next days, word spread, not as gossip, but as understanding. Volare elders requested Evan's presence in discussions. Other species began asking human liaisons to attend emotionally complex negotiations. Humans did not speak louder. They did not demand more space. They simply arrived, and things settled. Evan watched this unfold with quiet disbelief. He had always thought of humanity as small on the galactic scale. New, uncertain, still learning. Now he saw something different. Humanity was not weak. It was restrained. One evening, a multi-species social gathering was held to ease recent tensions. Music filled the wide chamber, layered and gentle. Emotional displays flowed freely. Color, sound, movement. Evan stood near the edge, as he always did. Saylan approached him slowly, her glow brighter than usual. "May I stand with you?" "You don't need to ask," Evan said. "I do," she replied, "because you respect asking." They stood side by side, watching the room. In my culture, Evan said after a while, bonding takes time. We talk, we hesitate, we make mistakes. That is acceptable, she said. I do not seek certainty. I seek sincerity. He turned to her. Then I need you to know something. I won't pretend confidence I don't have.
I won't rush feelings I'm still learning to name. Her glow softened further.
That honesty is why I chose you. For the first time, Evan reached out, not to touch, but to offer. His hand hovered between them. Silene looked at it, then placed her hand lightly against his. The contact was brief, careful, mutual. Around them, the room seemed to breathe. Later, Evan overheard two non-human delegates speaking quietly.
The humans do not flood the emotional field, one said.
No, the other replied. They anchor it. That night, Evan wrote a report he never expected to write. Human emotional discipline should not be mistaken for absence of feeling. It is a practiced skill shaped by uncertainty and self-awareness. Its impact on interspecies relations is significant. He paused, then added one more line. Humanity does not dominate connection. It allows it. When he sent the report, the system flagged it for high-level review. Evan shut down his console and looked out at the stars again. Silene joined him, standing close but not pressing. You are changing things, she said.
We are, Evan corrected.
She smiled. For the first time, Evan did not feel small among the stars. He felt enough. Evan learned about the review 3 days later. It was not announced loudly. Nothing on Lyris Point ever was. A simple request appeared in his schedule, marked as a cross-cultural consultation. That alone would not have worried him, but the list of attendees did. Valari elders, 2 non-Valari emotional analysts,
And a human oversight representative from Earth.
That was new. Evan stood in his quarters for a long moment, staring at the notice. He did not feel fear exactly, but he felt weight. Humans recognized that feeling well. It meant something mattered. Silene found him before the meeting. You are tense, she said softly. I didn't realize I was that obvious. You are obvious only to those who are watching, she replied. And I watch, he exhaled slowly. They want to talk about us. Or about humans. Maybe both. She nodded. The Valari elders do not summon without reason. They walked together to the consultation chamber, a quiet circular room designed to put no species at a disadvantage. No sharp lights, no raised platforms. Everything was balanced. Evan noticed that Sayalin did not sit beside him at first. She took a seat across the circle. It was deliberate, respectful. The eldest Valari spoke first. Gol. Her glow was calm, nearly white.
Evan Cole of Earth.
You have been identified as a stabilizing presence within mixed emotion environments. Evan inclined his head. I didn't intend to be. That is noted, the elder replied. A non-Valeri analyst spoke next. Human restraint is influencing social dynamics station-wide. Emotional escalations are decreasing. Trust indicators are rising. The human representative, a woman named Dr. Titch. Hayes looked at Evan carefully. You didn't file a request for this role. No, Evan said honestly. I didn't think it was a role. Silence followed, not uncomfortable, considered. Sayalin finally spoke. Among the Balari, Evan has been treated as a bonding presence. Dr. Hayes raised an eyebrow.
With consent? Yes, Silene said. And with patience? The elders exchanged subtle shifts of color.
This is why we called this meeting, the eldest said. Humanity's emotional discipline is not passive.
It alters relational structures. Evan felt his chest tighten. Is that a problem? No, the elder said. It is an opportunity. The word settled into the room. After the meeting, Evan walked alone for a while. He needed space to think. Something Sciline understood without being told. Humans had always thought of themselves as adaptable survivors. They adjusted. They learned. They endured. But no one had prepared him for the idea that simply being human, being careful, reflective, restrained, could reshape an entire station. He stopped at a quiet junction overlooking a slow drift of stars. He thought about Earth. About how often humans were told they were too quiet, too cautious, too slow to act. Maybe the galaxy needed that slowness. Sciline joined him a few minutes later. She did not speak right away. They asked something of me, Evan said. They asked something of us, she corrected gently.
He looked at her. They want me to continue.
To be present. Officially.
And how do you feel?
I feel. He searched for the word. Seen. And unsure.
That is an honest place to stand, she said. Over the next days, changes became visible.
Humans were invited into mediation roles. Not to lead, but to steady. Other species began observing human emotional practices, pausing before speaking, asking instead of assuming, allowing silence. Evan helped where he could, careful not to push. One afternoon, a Valari youth approached him, nervous and flickering with emotion. How do you hold so much without spilling it? They asked. Evan thought for a moment. We don't hold it alone, he said. We choose when and where to let it out. That answer spread. That evening, Sciline asked Evan to walk with her beyond the central ring, to a place Valari used for personal decisions. The lights were dimmer there. The stars felt closer.
I must make my intentions clear, she said. Evan nodded.
Buzz, so must I. She faced him fully. I will not bind you by my culture. I will not ask you to be what you are not. But I will ask this. Do you wish to explore this bond, knowing it will change how others see us? Evan felt the weight of the question. Humans were not afraid of commitment. They were afraid of unexamined commitment.
Yes, he said finally. But slowly.
On equal ground. Her glow brightened, warm and steady. That is all I hoped for. She reached out, not touching his hand this time, but placing her palm near his, close enough to feel warmth without pressure. Evan mirrored the gesture. The stars beyond the glass seemed to hold still. Later that night, Evan submitted a final addendum to his report. Human connection does not overwhelm. It invites. Given space, others choose to step closer. He shut down his console and leaned back, feeling tired but calm. For the first time since leaving Earth, Evan felt like humanity was not just surviving among the stars. It was being understood, and that understanding was only just beginning. Evan stood at the wide observation window as the station slowly shifted into its artificial night cycle. The lights dimmed in soft layers, never sudden, never harsh. Lyris Point believed in transitions. D's, humans, Evan had learned, did too. Behind him, the station moved as it always had. Quiet footsteps, distant voices, the gentle hum of systems keeping countless lives in balance. Yet something had changed. Not loudly, not dramatically. But it was there, in the way people paused, in the way they looked at one another before speaking, in the way they looked at him. He was no longer just a liaison. He was no longer invisible. That thought still felt strange. Sciline joined him without sound. She stood close, not touching, but present. Evan did not need to turn to know she was there. You are thinking again, she said. He smiled faintly.
Is it that obvious? To me, she replied. Yes. They stood together in silence for a while. It was the kind of silence humans understood well.
Not empty. Not awkward. Full. Over the past weeks, the station had changed its internal guidelines. Humans were now formally listed as emotional stabilizers in mixed-species environments. It was not a title Evan had wanted, but it was one he accepted carefully. Humans did not rush into meaning. They grew into it. Evan remembered the first days after humanity arrived among the stars. How small they had felt. How careful. How easily overlooked. Humans had assumed they would need to prove themselves through technology, or strength, or speed. Instead, they were being noticed for something quieter, for choosing not to overwhelm. A message appeared on Evan's console. A request for him and Cyaline to attend a closing session with the Valari elders and several station representatives. Not a review this time. A confirmation. They walked together through the station's inner ring. Other beings stepped aside without being asked, not out of fear, but courtesy. Evan still was not used to that. The chamber was softly lit, circular, familiar now. The eldest Valari elder greeted them both. The station has observed a measurable shift, the elder said. Conflict resolution times have shortened. Emotional recovery has improved. Trust between species has deepened. She paused.
This has occurred without force, persuasion, or dominance. Evan listened quietly. The common factor, the elder continued, is human presence. Dr.
Hayes, attending remotely from Earth, smiled slightly. We always suspected this was possible, she said. We just didn't know the galaxy would notice. Cyaline spoke then. This outcome was not engineered. It emerged from mutual respect. The elder inclined her head, which is why it will endure. The meeting ended without ceremony. No applause, no announcement. That was how lasting things were decided. Later, Evan and Cyaline walked again through the observation corridor where their understanding had first begun. Stars drifted beyond the glass, endless and patient.
I want to ask you something, Evan said.
She turned to him fully. Ask. When you first started spending time with me, he said slowly, did you know where it would lead? She considered the question. No. I only knew how it felt.
And now? Now, she said. I know that choosing you changed me, but it did not erase me.
Evan nodded. That matters. He faced her then, truly faced her, without uncertainty pulling him backward. I don't have grand promises, he said. I don't know where this path goes, but I know I want to walk it. With you, as myself. Her glow warmed, steady and calm. That is how Valari bonds last, she said. Not through certainty, through presence.
She stepped closer. Evan did not step away.
This time, when they touched hands, there was no hesitation, no pressure. Just connection. Around them, the station continued to exist. Ships arrived, ships departed. Life moved forward. But something fundamental had settled into place. In the days that followed, humans across the station noticed subtle changes. Meetings opened with pauses. Emotional expressions softened. Other species began asking humans questions not about technology, but about patience, about restraint, about how to feel deeply without losing control. Humans answered as they always had. Honestly, carefully, together. Evan wrote his final report weeks later, not because it was required, but because it felt right to record the moment. Humanity does not need to be louder to be heard. We do not need to be faster to matter. Our strength lies in knowing when to speak and when to simply remain. He sent the report, then shut down the console. Cyaline waited for him near the window.
Are you ready?
she asked. For what?
For whatever comes next.
Evan looked out at the stars, then back at her. Yes, he said. I think we are. And for the first time since humanity reached beyond its homeworld, the stars did not feel distant. They felt like a place where humans belonged, not because they conquered it, but because they understood how to share it. Quietly, steadily, together.